Hi, welcome back to Science 1206, the Weather Dynamics Unit. I'm Ms. Ledwell, and in this video, we'll talk about measuring relative humidity. Let's get started. A hygrometer is a device used to measure relative humidity. Recall that relative humidity is the amount of water vapor in the air compared to the maximum amount of water vapor in the air at that temperature. In other words, relative to the temperature of the air. Digital hygrometers are one type of device that can be used to measure relative humidity. These devices provide readings electronically. Note that the relative humidity is written as a percent, and warm air can hold more water vapor than cold air. A whirling hygrometer, also known as a sling psychrometer or simply a psychrometer, is also used to measure relative humidity. It operates on the principle of evaporation. The psychrometer contains two thermometers. The first thermometer, known as the dry bulb, is exposed to the air and measures the current air temperature. The second, the wet bulb, is wrapped in a moist cloth. And the handle we can see in the diagram is used to twirl the psychrometer. Due to evaporation, the temperature indicated by the wet bulb drops below that of the actual air temperature. If evaporation does not occur, indicating no temperature difference between the wet and dry bulbs, the relative humidity is 100%. On the other hand, if the relative humidity is 70%, for example, the air is holding 70% of the water vapor it can hold at that current air temperature. If a difference in the temperature is observed, the relative humidity is determined by subtracting the temperature on the wet bulb thermometer from the temperature on the dry bulb thermometer and comparing the difference to values on a relative humidity chart, like this one. We'll go into more detail on how to use this chart later in the video. Here are the steps to using the sling psychrometer. Step 1 is to measure the air temperature using the dry bulb thermometer. Next, use water to thoroughly wet the wick on the wet bulb thermometer. Step 3 is to use the handle to rapidly twirl the psychrometer for a duration of 10 to 15 seconds, then check the readings. Step 4 is to repeat step 3 until the reading on the wet bulb thermometer stabilizes. That means it's not continually changing. Step 5 is to calculate the temperature difference by subtracting the wet bulb temperature from the dry bulb temperature. Your last step is to locate the point on the chart where the dry bulb temperature and the calculated temperature difference intersect. This will give you the relative humidity as a percent, and we'll go over how to do that now. Let's look at an example using a relative humidity chart. A psychrometer reading gives a dry bulb reading of 20 degrees Celsius and a wet bulb reading of 18 degrees Celsius. What is the relative humidity? Well, first thing you need to do is subtract these two readings to get the difference. So you're going to subtract the wet and dry bulb temperatures. We have 20 degrees minus 18 degrees Celsius gives us a difference of 2 degrees Celsius. Next, you're going to look at the relative humidity chart. First, you're going to find 20 in the dry bulb column, and then you're going to go across the top to 2 because that was the difference between the dry bulb and the wet bulb. The relative humidity then is where these intersect, and that is 83%. Now it's time to continue to the next video. Before you do, take a weather fact break. Can you name 3 instruments we use to measure weather? Jot them down before breezing into the next instructional video.